This is New Vision TV News. These are our top stories in the news around Uganda. Male MP praises the fertility of Ugandan women. Live bullets and tear gas rock Mbale Kumi Highway. Wakiso returning officer overwhelmed by applications. Uganda joins the rest of the world to celebrate International Youth Day. In the news around East Africa, Kenya politicians are not waiting for the election timetable. And in the news around the world, find out why the Republican Party could find another presidential candidate instead of Donald Trump. In our special report today, International Youth Day 27 years ago, when the Youth Council bill was tabled, the definition of youth nearly caused a crisis in youth politics. We look at the events then. Hello, you're watching New Vision TV News with me, Ruth Inasejo, broadcast from the New Vision newsroom. We'll take a look at the news around Uganda first. We start with a national story where even the North County Member of Parliament, David Guma says a cause on uproar in Parliament when he hailed women in Uganda for being fertile. This angered MPs who are discussing population controls in the face of population pressure. Let's take a look.
Honourable members, listen, I've come here to make a serious observation. Honourable members. The production of more Ugandans, or producing more Ugandans, is a blessing in my view. It's a total blessing. We only need to look at the primary function. I think a point which Honourable Samuel so that we can replace these energetic young Ugandans. Rather than condemning it, we must really praise God that we have fertile women and we are producing children. We only need plan for them.
We move on to more stories making news around Uganda. From Mbale District, police has fired tear gas and live bullets to disperse hundreds of angry residents who had blocked Mbale Kumisoroti Highway, protesting the government's failure to put humps at Nkoma in Northern Division Mbale Municipality. They used heavy blocks, tree branches and garbage, and also lit a fire in the middle of the road, which paralyzed the traffic flow. Business along the busy road was brought to a standstill as hundreds of heavy trucks from Malaba-Busia border heading to different parts of the country got stuck for fear of being damaged by the angry residents. Protesters couldn't allow any car to cross on either side, and the demonstration lasted for an hour before the police arrived to restore peace. Elgon Regional Traffic Officer Godfrey Mwesije said that it was not the work of the traffic or police to fix humps on the road, adding that police had written to concerned authorities about the matter. Moving on to Jinja District, Uganda joined the rest of the world in celebrating International Youth Day 2019 with the national celebrations at St. Gonzaga Primary School, Kagoma in Buwenge Sub-County, Jinja District. President Yoweri Museveni was represented at the function by the Vice President Edward Kiwanuka II. Marked every August the 12th, the day is celebrated in conformity with the UN General Assembly resolution of December 17th, 1999. Over 70% of Ugandans belong to the category of the youth. But who are the youth? In our special report today, we look at what happened 27 years ago. News coming in from Wakiso District, Albert Musinguzi. The district's returning officer is overwhelmed by the number of applicants who want electoral commission jobs in the district. According to Musinguzi, only 27 sub-county supervisors and 147 parish supervisors are needed, but he has so far received over 1,000 applications. Musinguzi made the remarks on Friday while conducting interviews for the two posts. He says the office has started preparing for the 2021 general elections. Only 280 were shortlisted to compete for the new posts. The applicants were required to have the national identity card and a minimum education of O-level. From Kabalore district, ladies have been encouraged to go for technical training as an alternative route for a better future. While presiding over the 11th graduation ceremony for St. Joseph's Technical Institute of Uganda Matters University Fort Portal campus, Edson Mirembe, the principal of the institute, was not pleased that some ladies were not embracing vocational training. He said that with the increase in the number of factories and organizations opening up, there is need for skilled workforce. Parents were encouraged to consider taking their children to technical schools. Over 127 youth graduated in different skills like carpentry, mechanical and civil engineering and plumbering at the institute. Closing off the news around Uganda is a story from Bundibujo district where Muslims have encouraged a multi-billion Al-Barakati hospital. This was done during the Eid al-Duha prayers held at Boma grounds in Bundibujo Town Council. His Eminence Mohammed Irumba, the regional Kadi, Bunyoro Toro region, said the budget for the Al-Barakati hospital is 13 billion shillings and in less than 4 months construction will begin. He said the hospital will be built at Bundibujo Muslim Primary School and the school will be shifted. The regional Kadi say that the Uganda Muslim Council and the people in Bundibujo will lead in the mobilization of funds from within and outside the country. The hospital will have 8 wards, 3 laboratories, children's wing, a conference center and a mosque. The health facility will serve both Ugandans and people from the Democratic Republic of Congo. We now take a look at the news around the East African region. We start off with news in Tanzania. The country is mourning and struggling to come to terms with the death of 71 people in a petrol tank inferno on Saturday. Grief is palpable in Morogoro, some 175 kilometers west of the capital, Dar es Salaam, where people were cheered to death and several escaped with severe burns. The tragic story started on Saturday when a petrol tank driver swerved to save a reckless boda rider and lost control. The tanker overturned. Residents noticing petrol leaking rushed to scoop it, and the next thing was a huge fireball that engulfed the area. The dead were buried on Sunday. President John Magufuli directed Muhimbili National Hospital in Dar es Salaam to offer free treatment to the injured. This is the first accident of the kind in Tanzania's recent history. Moving on to South Sudan, the Kenyan Special Envoy for South Sudan, Kalonzo Musyoka, has said there should be no further delays in the formation of the country's coalition government due this November. Addressing reporters after meeting the South Sudanese President Salva Kiir on last week, Musyoka said his mission is to encourage the parties to achieve the November 12th deadline without any delays. The Kenyan opposition leader was appointed as special envoy to South Sudan in July. We close the news around East Africa from Kenya. Kenyan politicians are not waiting for the election timetable. Deputy President Ruto has been traversing the country on a so-called development tour, but in reality selling his candidature for 2022 elections. Opposition leader Raila Odinga, who is widely believed to have the backing of President Uhuru Kenyatta, has also been going around the country. Today, The Star, a Kenyan newspaper, reported that Amani National Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi has assembled a team of technocrats as his political think tank as he aggressively masters a formidable 2020 political machine. The Star has established that Mudavadi has tapped into political think tanks, some of which previously worked for President Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition chief Raila Odinga. Musalia was the chairman of the NASA presidential campaign. He interacted with everyone and he knows those who are effective. A source familiar with the plans told the Star. A 15-member think tank includes Elaudi Awara, a management consultant whose firm, Elaudi and Advocates, has been bagging huge consultancy work in and out of the government. In news around the world, from Libya, rocket fire hit the Libyan capital's sole functioning airport Sunday, violating a temporary truce between the unity government and forces loyal to strongman Khalifa Haftar, airport authorities said. Air traffic was suspended until further notice, a statement added alongside photos showing columns of smoke rising from the runway and packed planes. Haftar launched an offensive to take Libya's capital in early April, but encountered stiff resistance, resulting in months of stalemate in southern Tripoli's outskirts. News from Ethiopia. Ethiopia's ruling coalition says national elections will take place next year, defying worries over security and displacement in the Horn of Africa country that had led some to speculate the election may be postponed. The executive committee did not give a date for the poll. News from the United States as the U.S. presidential race takes shape. Anthony Scaramucci, former White House communications director, aired his views that Republican Party could find another presidential candidate, implying Donald Trump is not fit to run. He said President Donald Trump's ongoing meltdown could lead to him getting replaced as the Republican flag bearer for next year's presidential election. News from India. Indian troops clamped tight restrictions on mosques across Kashmir for Mondi's Eid al-Adha festival, fearing anti-government protests over the stripping of the Muslim-majority region's autonomy, according to residents. The Himalayan region's biggest mosque, the Jama Masjid, was ordered closed, and people were only allowed to pray in smaller local mosques so that no big crowds could gather, witnesses said. Kashmir has been in a security lockdown for 8 days as the Hindu nationalist government in New Delhi seeks to sniff out opposition to its move to impose tighter central control over the region. Closing off the news around the world is a story from Japan, where South Korea has put Japan into its own new export category, intensifying a trade war between the two neighbors and U.S. allies. The move came after Seoul announced earlier this month it would remove Tokyo from its list of trusted trading partners, reciprocating an identical move by Japan that followed Tokyo's imposition of tough restrictions on exports crucial to tech titans such as Samsung, following a series of South Korean court rulings ordering Japanese firms to pay for forced labor during the World War II. That is it for the news around the world. We now take a short break, but when we come back, we'll take a look at the news in business.